You learned early that silence keeps you safe. Safe from the arguments you couldn't win. Safe from the faces that twisted your truth into guilt. You stopped explaining. You stopped defending. You folded your honesty into quiet and called it maturity. But silence can lie. It can look like peace while it's really exhaustion in disguise. It can sound holy while hiding heartbreak. You say you're over it, but your body still braces for impact. You say you don't care, but your chest tightens when you hear their name. You say you've moved on, yet you rehearse the words you'll never say out loud. That's not peace. That's performance. You think your silence makes you strong, but what if it only makes you invisible? What if every time you swallow your truth, you teach the world that your boundaries are optional? You don't need to shout to be heard, but you do need to mean you're quiet, because most people don't. They confuse repression with restraint and call avoidance enlightenment. Let's talk about that turning point, the moment silence stops being survival and becomes sovereignty. Because when your quiet starts carrying intention, it stops hiding you and starts introducing you. Silence is a room with two doors. Behind one, avoidance. Behind the other, authority. From the hallway, both doors look calm. Both promise peace, but only one leads to power. Avoidance says, if I don't speak, I can't be hurt. Authority says, my words are currency and I decide when to spend them. The first drains you, the second pays you interest. Imagine your energy as a microphone that's always on. Even when you say nothing, it records the tone of your restraint. Every sigh, every delayed reply, every half smile carries a signal. You can't mute frequency, you can only direct it. When you hold your tongue out of fear instead of faith, your silence still speaks. It just speaks distortion. It's like playing a song through broken speakers. The melody is beautiful, but the static steals the meaning. True silence, the kind that speaks louder than noise, is mastered, not defaulted. It's the pause between power chords, the rest note that gives the symphony its soul. When you learn to use silence like an instrument instead of armor, every note you don't play becomes a lesson to those who once mistook your stillness for surrender. You're not mute, you're measured. You were trained to think victory lives in the last word, but mastery lives in the final frequency. Words fade, vibration lingers. When you stop explaining yourself to those committed to confusion, you don't lose communication. You upgrade to telepathy. Silence is a mirror, not a muzzle. The quiet that once imprisoned you becomes revelation. Watch who grows frantic when they can't script your response. Notice who raises their voice when they realize they've lost access to yours. Their volume reveals their void. You don't owe the world your process. Healing is not a performance, it's an alignment. Transparency is sacred until it becomes self-betrayal. You can evolve privately and still radiate publicly. Growth doesn't need witnesses, it needs willingness. Every withdrawal is a declaration. Silence is not absence, it's authorship. When you remove your energy from chaos, you write a sentence that says, I heard you, I waited, I decline. That's not pettiness, that's precision. Peace is active. Peace isn't weakness. It's warfare with grace. It's how you sit when the storm shows up uninvited and realize the thunder was never about you. You don't run. You regulate. You stay still enough to hear direction. Stillness is strategy. The ego begs for reaction. Wisdom waits for resonance. Every reaction spends emotional currency. Every pause earns compound discernment. Stillness doesn't mean stuck. It means strategically selective. The old self was a speaker. The new self is a sound engineer. You used to chase validation through volume. Now you curate vibration. You don't perform, you tune. You don't debate, you demonstrate. You don't crave applause, you value accuracy. Each shift pulls you further from survival into sovereignty, reminding you that silence, when refined, doesn't erase you. It refines your signal until truth becomes undeniable. Now teach your body what your spirit understands. When the impulse to defend rises, pause. That pause is a portal. It's where the old self reacts and the new self remembers choice. Ask yourself, does this require words or does it require boundaries? 9 times out of 10, it's boundaries. Because boundaries speak fluent silence. They communicate what explanations complicate. Use quiet as punctuation, not punishment. Let it end conversations that no longer have meaning. Let it frame your yes and underline your no. Re-educate your nervous system to feel safe in stillness again. Not the tense quiet of walking on eggshells, the sacred quiet of walking on purpose. Try this. When conflict calls your name, inhale the entire situation through your nose, hold it for 3 seconds, and exhale the urge to convince. That isn't repression, it's regulation. That's you conducting your internal orchestra instead of letting fear play solo. Each time you do it, you reclaim signal control. You teach your energy to respond only where respect exists. Because the moment your silence aligns with self-respect, people start hearing it as language, a language they can't manipulate. Silence isn't emptiness, it's evaluation. It's the meeting room where intuition edits your next response before your ego hits send. Polish your silence. Let it become the most articulate part of your character. When your energy is consistent, your absence will communicate your standards, and the world will start treating you accordingly. You don't have to prove your growth by performing calm. You are calm. And that authenticity doesn't need an audience. It needs integration. Your silence is no longer the absence of sound. It's the presence of self. Every person who once lived off your reaction will have to face their own echo now. Without your participation, their chaos has no chorus. You speak less, but everything you say now carries weight. You engage less, but every engagement has meaning. You've become fluent in restraint, and that fluency commands rooms words could never reach. Remember this. You didn't go quiet because you had nothing left to say. You went quiet because you finally realized not everyone deserves access to the echo. Let them interpret your stillness however they need to. You're not responsible for the noise they create to fill the space your peace left behind. Because silence, when chosen, doesn't shrink you, it crowns you. And this is the sound of sovereignty. This was entry 3. Why your silence speaks louder than their words. The next frequency begins where alignment stops waiting for permission and starts moving in purpose.